been empowering entrepreneurs through access to finance, business training, and technical assistance. So whatever stage you're at, we can help. Call us at 228-1366 or visit us online at www.fundaccess.org. Fund Access, empowering entrepreneurs. It is often said that the longest journey begins with the first step. And here at Fund Access, we give you the courage to start your journey, to grow, to live your dream. For more than 20 years, Fund Access has been empowering entrepreneurs through access to finance, business training, and technical assistance. So whatever stage you're at, we can help. Call us at 228-1366 or visit us online at www.fundaccess.org. Fund Access, empowering entrepreneurs.
Turn it on. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our third Let's Talk Virtually, a series of webinars facilitated by Fund Access and the Barbados Entrepreneurship Foundation, along with our sponsor, Trident 10, in response to the $250 Community Challenge. I am your host, Karen Sue, representing Fund Access. Today marks the third of 8 webinars addressing a range of business matters, and today's topic will look at mental well-being for MSMEs. Let me introduce you to our facilitator, Dr. Janelle Chase Mears. Dr. Mears has a PhD in marriage and family therapy and is a mental health consultant, with an emphasis on training individuals, families, and organizations. As a key facilitator with Reengineering Wellness Consultants, her passions include helping individuals, organizations, teams understand and apply mental health and mindset, self-care, grief, and visioning to their everyday life experiences. Her passions lie in helping professionals connect the dots of their own patient-client care with their own personal and professional care. I will now hand you over to Dr. J, as she's affectionately called.
Yes, thank you so much, Karen Sue.
You're welcome.
And welcome to everyone that is on YouTube, anyone who is on Facebook, and any other social media platform that you're watching. And I am so excited, Karen, to be here.
Awesome.
Because money and mental health and mental well-being go hand in hand. But we often don't think about that. And so today I'm going to encourage you guys to be awesome keyboard warriors. Like, you know, everybody like to drop some comments in the chat for other things, because today we're talking about money and your mental well-being. I want you to be an awesome keyboard warrior, and Karen Sue is going to facilitate those questions to me. Do not be afraid to put those questions in the chat box so we can actually engage with each other. But today I really want to focus on what mental health is, going into mental well-being, and then talking about the components of your mental health and your mental well-being. Looking at your cognition, your emotions, and relationships. And for a lot of people, we don't understand that we make a lot of decisions about money based on how we think, how we feel, and who we are involved with, who we live around, the businesses that we entertain, as well as managing our own well-being. And at the end, I want to provide you a practical toolkit. Whether it is that I'm going to ask you a couple questions for you to think about, are you really prepped to turn this $250 into something magnificent for yourself? Are you really ready to take that $250 and start maybe a career or a profession that you were thinking about before but never had the funds to actually start? So as Karen Sue said, I am Dr. Janelle Chase Mears, but I want to go down a little bit. Whenever I'm doing a presentation to individuals, I love to share the things that I do because I want people to consider that as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's competed in a challenge, you bring so many other things to yourself. You bring so many other things to this challenge. You may be a good chef. You may be a good accountant at home. You may be the one who is actually connecting the dots for your family members when people are having challenges. So I want you to understand that when you are spending this money, when you're engaging in this challenge, that you bring the several components of who you are to the table. So I just don't want you to bring the entrepreneurial hat, but I want you to bring the person who may be interested in life skills, the person who may be interested in relationships. I always tell people, if you run a business and you don't want to tell anybody about your business, how are you going to get customers? If you do this in private, how are you going to get people to actually engage or get a product from you? All right. So I don't know about you, Karen Sue, but I'm curious if you think mental health is the new buzzword.
I do think mental health is the new buzzword.
Okay.
Definitely.
And let's see if anybody else in the chat, what are their thoughts? And one of the reasons why I chose to answer this question ultimately is mental health has been around for such a long time. But I honestly believe that at the height of the pandemic, people started to recognize that it was just, things weren't just about business. Things weren't just about making money. It was about our ability to take care of ourselves in an experience that was traumatic. And for lots of people, they're now tired of hearing the word mental health. No, they're now tired of hearing the word mental well-being. But I want to invite you, I want to extend an invitation for you to understand how important it is for your mental well-being and your mental health when you are actually engaging in building or starting or funding a business. While this challenge may be an opportunity for you to grow, let this challenge also be an opportunity for you to understand your mental well-being. Because as I know, and perhaps a lot of other people who have been in business over the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic, it takes a toll on your mental well-being. You have to choose between a lot of things that you ultimately would not have chosen between before. And so I want to extend an invitation to not see mental health as a buzzword or not see mental well-being as a buzzword, but actually to see it as a component to your business venture, to a great component to your mental well-being and a tool for your success. Now let's get into why for me it's not a mental health, it's not a buzzword. Because mental health and optimizing human performance and mental well-being is very systems oriented. And if you think about business, there are certain words, right, Karen, so that business is oriented. Like language is language specific.
Yeah.
So I can't come in here and be like, so can I get the thing? I got a business and I just need some money for the thing. You know, what's thing? Like, I need a business plan. I may need to get an estimate. I may need to get, there are other things, financial documents, my financial statements. So we need to understand that when we talk about business, it is very systems oriented and it's language specific. It is also developmental specific. So as many of you start this process, for some of you, this may not be the first time that anybody has funded you money for your business. Maybe you have a bakery. Maybe you have an online store. Maybe you sell clothes at flea markets, whatever it is. There's a developmental aspect of it. And I know for me, when I first started out this process of wanting to be an entrepreneur, not only was it scary, but it was truly exciting. And the thing about it, excitement doesn't always last.
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't.
So you start a business, you know, and you're like, yes, I got this $250 and I'm ready. You realize that the $250 only lasts a week. You know, you didn't plan out all of these things, and that can take a big toll on your mental health and your mental well-being. It is also very culturally specific. And if you think about where we are in the Caribbean and how the economy is not growing as much as it was growing before, you know, we have to make better choices. And you cannot make better choices with your money if you're not thinking straight. It's one of the hardest decisions to make when you know your thoughts are not coherent. You know, you really feel extremely stressed, but you know that you may have a bill that you have to pay. But you have to choose between a bill and buying inventory. And inventory will get you more money, but paying the bill may actually release some stress. So let's get into pre-pandemic and understanding that mental health was going really, really fast before the pandemic came. A lot of people, unfortunately, were struggling with their mental health. And they were struggling in a way that they couldn't quantify it and they couldn't qualify it. They couldn't share with people that maybe their business was getting bankrupt. And that's why you see now, during the pandemic, so many businesses have ultimately shut shop. You know, so many people who've had small micro enterprises, literally, you know, can't do it anymore. It's not sustainable. And so for me, I always ask people when we get into the concept of mental well-being is to slow the game down. How long is the challenge?
The challenge is 8 weeks.
8 weeks. Yeah. So let's say we've got 8 to 10 weeks for this challenge, right? And ultimately, for a lot of people, they may be thinking that they need to speed up this process, you know, and they need to get everything done right away. I want to challenge you to slow the game down when it comes to you making decisions about your money, when it comes to you making decisions about how you feel about using this money. Because sometimes we make the biggest mistakes because we're moving in haste, especially when it comes to business and making decisions. You know, we move too fast because we see the competition. You know, this person can put this thing out before me. And it's like, well, this person may actually have a business plan that says that this thing must come out here at this time. And you have no plan, but you're going to spend all the $250. So really extended this invitation for us to slow the game down when it comes to our well-being. You know, for pre-pandemic, the business person's mental health has always been in trouble. Because rarely would you go anywhere where this discussion, and I'm so grateful for Fund Access for including this conversation, you know, because rarely would you see this conversation being part of, you know, the larger conversation about money. You know, you'll talk about financial accounting, staffing, HR, all the different elements that you guys would have started having the conversation and the latter conversations to come. But mental health was never one of the things. Yet we know, and statistics show, that a lot of people who are in business struggle with their mental hygiene. They struggle with their capacity to think well around the decisions. They struggle with being able to have good relationships outside of their experience of their work. They become workaholics. You know, everything in their life is truly. So I'm wondering if any of you who are watching, you know, can you identify with that? Where prior to the pandemic, you were struggling a little bit with your mental well-being. You were so engrossed in trying to create a product. You were so engrossed in trying to be financially stable that you kind of left other people by the wayside. And what happens like that, especially with your mental well-being, your social interaction depletes. And once your social interaction depletes, you then start to second guess some of the decisions that you're making individually. So if you do identify, like I said, be an awesome keyboard warrior. Don't just watch me, but share some love in the chat so we can see and hear and engage with your thought processes. So here are a few things that I want you to think about with regards to your mental well-being pre-pandemic. How was your family operating with money? How is the economic administration operating with money? What are your childhood experiences? I'll pause here for a second. For a lot of us, when it comes to mental well-being and money, we don't take into account the messages that we are sent on a consistent basis about money. I have heard, Karen Sue, money don't grow on trees. What else we hear? You can't just walk out and pick up this money from off of the ground.
Money
Or
don't last long.
it don't last long. Or you always want something, you don't know this thing costs money. So for the most part, a lot of us, when we're engaging in these conversations as childhood experiences with money, a lot of us haven't been told that money is a good thing. You hear, don't borrow from the body. I don't know how fun access still actually working, but culturally, we're told not to borrow money or don't pick up a lot of debt. And once you keep repeating those things, that kind of stops your growth. It stops your growth in a very large way because you don't even understand how to manage good debt. You don't even understand how to access loans. Then also competition, as I said before. A lot of people were in competition with other people's resources that they did not have. So if you are on this challenge or if you're thinking about engaging in this challenge, please slow the game down and understand that you bring something very unique to the market. There's a reason why food stores are next to each other in malls and clothing stores are next to each other in malls. People can choose what they want, how they want to spend their money. Know that your consumer or your customer can also make that decision without you putting yourself in a mental state of being competitive with other people. Profit schedules. Now you have 8 weeks. And for a lot of people pre-pandemic, a lot of us didn't study profit the way in which we're studying it now. Because it wasn't profit for a rainy day. It was profit so your business could grow. And so I want you to consider when you're navigating your mental well-being that the conversations about money looks a little different because we're very aware now that saving for a rainy day may end up being saving for a rainy 3 years. That's how long it is. 2.5 years, almost 3 years, right? Poor business models. And for a lot of us who are involved in business, never went to school for business. And so when you think about during the pandemic and post-pandemic, being involved in agencies like this helps us understand the business model systems and systems adaptation. And what I mean by that, we're all part of a larger system. This challenge is only one part of your business experience so far, but there'll be so many more. So if you think about the pre-pandemic and a lot of people not understanding how to engage and how to grow with those particular business systems, I want you to consider it. What do I need to do now? How do I engage during the pandemic as an avenue for better mental health strategies? Because I honestly believe even in Fund Access putting on this particular webinar, that we're really getting ahead now of the curve when we talk about mental well-being. And we're really asking entrepreneurs and small business enterprises to really consider, before you make some decisions, how well are you? How is your mental health? So I'll take an opportunity now to really dive into what mental health is. And so it's such a big buzzword. And for a lot of people use the term in a way that people feel uncomfortable, like I'm working on my mental health and they still don't know what that means. And so I want to change it from the buzzword, as I said before, and really give it a good working definition. And the World Health Organization says that mental health is a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own ability and can cope with the normal stresses of life and can work productively and is able to make a contribution to his or her own community. And I always read this definition because life happens, and when you have to spend money, you have to make business decisions, and you have to make life decisions. You have to be able to cope with the stressors that come, because I don't know about you, Karen, but life is always stressful. It is just the way in which you view it, right? But you also have to be able to produce well. And if you're going into business, your well-being is key. Your mental hygiene is key. Your ability to withstand the mental challenges. And I want to say I'm very careful with the words that I choose, because a lot of people will say that, you need to learn how to be mentally tough. And I actually want to say you need to be mentally skilled. And it's really about learning about your abilities to be better equipped in managing your mental health in a way that creates growth for yourself. I want to start by having this conversation larger about what's your why? Why are you in this challenge mentally? Why are you choosing to engage in a challenge that gives you $250 to start something? And for those who are under the age of 25, I want you to think a little bit deep, because 30-year-olds, they may know their why, Their why may be, they want to get out of their parents' house, they want to be the best person, they want to be on the big screen. But between 80 and 25, you may not want to change the world. My picture that I'm sharing is, this is my why, right? My son. He's the reason why I do a lot of things that I do. And so every decision that I make, every engagement that I make, whether it's through money, through relationships, it's because of him. And the ability to provide him a life, not necessarily better than mine was growing up, but a life that he gets an opportunity to do what he wants to do and become who he wants to become. So you have to know your why when you're getting ready to spend money. You have to know your why when you're getting ready to engage in business practices, rather than just saying, well, I think the buzzword is entrepreneur. I want to be an entrepreneur, And I'm like, well, you want to be an entrepreneur? Because I don't want to work for nobody. That's but one reason. I need you to have more reasons, especially as you engage into this challenge. So let's get into what are the components to mental health. So along with looking at the definition, I want you to consider, as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, as a micro enterprise, how is your cognition? How are you thinking? How are you thinking about business? Are your thoughts clear? Are you engaging with other people who have very, very clear thoughts? I remember when I started my first business, brick and mortar business, I was having a conversation with my mom, and I don't think she understood what I wanted to do. And I found myself, after a couple conversations, choosing not to talk to her about business anymore. Because her thoughts were not, hey, let me go. The thoughts was like, you sure? This is what you want to do? You can do this? And how you can do this? And how you can get this done? And for a lot of us, we don't understand that our well-being is directly impacted by other people's thought processes. So how are your thoughts? How are your emotions? The way you feel about your business determines how successful your business or this business venture will be. Many of us come from a place of fear, doubt, anxiety, sadness, frustration in the business world, not understanding that this is part of the business world. You know, it is a roller coaster of emotion. You know, you are going to be in a position of not understanding how things. So can you regulate those emotions? Do you understand those emotions? And do you understand that those emotions are part of the process? And then interactional and interpersonal relationships. Your mental well-being and your mental health is the sum of the people you hang around with, the people you live with, the people you discuss business with, the people you engage with. And so for a lot of us, we think mental well-being operates in a vacuum. But if you're watching something or you're engaging with people that create a sense of doubt, that creates a sense of fear, every single time you step into your business world, chances are you'll have to fight them all the time. And the energy that you took to fight them is now taken away from the energy that you need to build a business, to engage in spending the money or engage in making decisions that are greater for your business. So I'll take a deeper dive into cognition. Any questions? No. You got anybody? Any commenting? Keyboard warriors, where y'all at? We see you guys on YouTube and we see you all on Facebook. Want to hear some questions from you. So for cognition, and there are a lot more components of cognition, but I want to focus on these 5 components today. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a micro enterprise, I want you to consider, in terms of your cognition, how well do you focus? How well do you concentrate? How good is your memory? How well do you make decisions? And how well are you exposed to stress? And I'll start from the bottom and come back up. Your mental well-being will always be challenged when you're working in a business. Stress is part of this job. Right? Let me say that again. Stress is part of this job. There's eustress, which is good stress, and there's distress, which for some people is bad. I don't use the word bad. It takes away value from your experiences. However, stress allows you to grow exponentially. So in our inability to see stress as something that's useful, to think about it in a way that's useful, keeps us stuck in our ability to move on with our businesses. Decision making. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, your mental well-being will continuously be taxed because you'll always have to make a decision. Should I do this? Should I say yes to this? Maybe I shouldn't do this. Have I asked this person for help? There are decisions every single day of your experience of your business. And there are decision times. There are timelines that you need to execute that are requiring your decision. So imagine if you are not mentally stable. Imagine if you're not mentally well. A lot of opportunities we let fall by the wayside because we can't think straight. Not because there's a lot. We literally cannot think straight. We don't know how to think straight. Then memory. Because business, especially if you're serving customers, if you're engaging with people, if you're providing a service, you need to be aware, long-term and short-term memory, of what you have done before and how you've done it. Hence, writing on paper, creating documents. Those documents act and form as part of your memory bank. So when your memory is not clear, and I'll use what has happened to us in the last 2 years. What a lot of people don't understand that if you've experienced trauma, if you've experienced COVID, or any symptoms associated with COVID, something that's happening is brain fog, which is directly impacting your memory, your concentration levels, and your focus. And if those things are impacted, imagine what that's going to look like with regards to you making some decisions. It's going to be very, very hard. And concentration. Your ability to concentrate determines how well you see an opportunity in your business. Your ability to focus determines on how well you see in your, how well you actually operate within your business. So those are the cognitive areas that I want you to consider when you're talking about your mental well-being. How clear is your focus? How clear is your concentration? Now, get a little nerdy here, but I always bring in some brain health conversations in mental well-being because this is really where it's at. When our brains are functioning well, we'll make better decisions for everything in our life. Our relationships, we'll make better decisions for our businesses, we'll make better decisions for our parenting, or our roles of being children, right? And so I want you to go down the rabbit hole a little bit, maybe not on this session, but consider what the parts of your brain actually mean and do for your mental well-being. And I'll just go through 3 parts. Your prefrontal cortex, which is really important right here, is responsible for your cognitive control, is responsible for your impulse inhibition. And I don't know about you all who are watching, but sometimes when you have money in your hand as a business owner, you need to control whether or not you can spend that money for yourself or you can spend that money for the business, right? Your prefrontal cortex actually controls that, you know. Your cognitive flexibility, your ability to think and be agile and change directions. So those who are agile, who are flexible in their thought processes, actually succeeded and perhaps did a better business model in the pandemic. And it wasn't the luck of draw. And it wasn't because they had saved money for a rainy day, because none of us knew that the rainy day was going to be 2 years. But it was because they had more cognitive flexibility than other people. Then your temporal lobe. And that's important for processing your affect and your emotions, your language, and the way in which you view things. You see, for a lot of you who may be receiving this $250, you may see this $250 as a big sum that you could do so many other things with. And for some of you, like $250 ain't nothing. What are you going to do with this? But the way in which you perceive that and actually speak to maybe your mentor about it will determine how successful you are in this challenge. And then the last one, decision making, because there are parts of our brain that there are certain parts of our brain that are responsible for the way in which we correspond and communicate with people. And our frontal lobe is responsible for that, for our ability to express our language, and also managing high-level executive functions. And that's what many of you will be doing. Literally managing money, making a decision to move forward your enterprise or your entrepreneurial spirit. So let me go to emotions now. And so emotions, I would say, is one of the biggest things that happens to entrepreneurs, how to handle them. You know, a lot of people get stuck in expressing their feelings. A lot of people get stuck in understanding their feelings. And a lot of people get stuck in actually being able to process their feelings with other people. So they shut down. How many of you watching, or how many of you listening, when you don't know how to manage your emotions, shut off? Shut off from the world. Stop communicating with people. Even though there's so much that you want to say, there's so much that you want to do, so many things that you want to engage in, but you literally shut off, perhaps because there's so many other people that have given you so many different messages about emotions. Right? So along with the prefrontal cortex, along with the temporal and frontal lobe, there's something called the limbic system. And this is the main processing unit of your emotions. And hopefully you all can see this. This is an emotional wheel. I normally show this because in Barbados, the main emotions, if you were at somebody, would be I'm fine, okay, good, cool. And you can't really make a lot of decisions with fine, okay, good, cool. But this particular wheel gives you so many emotions that you can use. And when you're in business, trust me, in business, I have felt scared, anxious, insecure, weak, rejected. I have also felt lonely, vulnerable, hurt. I felt critical. I felt frustrated. But I've also felt powerful. I felt peaceful. I felt playful. I felt confused. I felt tired. I felt definitely stressed and unfocused, right? I felt busy. You know, I felt overwhelmed. I felt like it's all been out of control. And one of the reasons why I shared my feelings, and be an awesome keyboard warrior and go ahead and share your feelings in the chat. If this is the only thing you do for me, tell me how you feel about yourself and money sometimes. But I share those because somebody needs to say it. There are no negative or positive emotions. Emotions simply just exist. And if we get into the well-being of individuals who are getting into entrepreneurial spirit and micro enterprise, understand that you may be this entire wheel one day. Morning you get up, you're real good. I feel real blessed and peaceful and proud. You get a phone call at 7 o'clock. The thing that you order ain't come in, and so therefore you can't make this soap. So you start to get real disturbed. Then by the afternoon, say, all right, you find back your little peace, but you ain't eat all day. So you start to get hungry. So you start to get real angry. You start to get anxious. So embrace this wheel. Understand that there are no positive and negative emotions. And in business, sometimes you have to take your perspective of that something is going wrong and just understand that sometimes you're just experiencing it. You know, people who've closed their doors at the height of the pandemic, it's not necessarily that something is going wrong. They made a business decision where it no longer was profitable to them. And they had to either find a job or partner with somebody else and actually take the stresses off. So for a lot of us, we don't really understand that. For me, this is the way in which I talk about emotions. Emotions literally either add value or take away value from your experiences. And so you have to know that sometimes being too happy and too giddy-headed could actually be a detriment to your business because you're not seeing the real picture. You know, like, yes, everybody can buy from me, and no, nobody don't want to buy for you. The crop over just went. Nobody got the money, right? And you upset, and I'm like, you all in your joy, but this was no, let's slow it down. It's just, you know, they're just emotions. They're, you know, they either add, and they're also just markers of the way we're interacting at the moment. So for me, with emotions, I talk about a 4-phase approach. Understanding the emotions. So if you are there, take some notes in this part. I want you to understand your emotions and understand the different intensities of your emotions. There's a difference between hurt, disappointed, and frustrated. There's a difference between happiness, joy, and over the moon. There's also the concept of emotional regulation. And this is the ability for you to present yourself in a particular situation that matches the energy. And when we get into money and we get into business, we have to understand that where your energy goes, your attention flows. So if you're concentrating on something not working, literally all the attention and your energy will start flowing into that direction, where you literally have then a full tumbleweed effect of things spiraling and not going well. And then the last part, your family of origins of teaching. Who taught you about the emotion of money? The values, the morals, the beliefs. These things become really important for your well-being as a micro-enterprise entrepreneur. Then the management of emotions. And I want to throw out this word anxiety not as a disorder or dis-ease of your mental well-being, but an awareness that all of us experience anxiety. There ain't no human being. You have a nervous system. Them nerves all over your body can create a sense of anxiousness. And that is directly in relation to threat. If you are experiencing something that is threatening, your body is supposed to say, listen, move, get up, right? And we could fight it, we could freeze, we could fawn. There's so many different elements. But I want you to understand that anxiety, when you're managing your emotions, is going to be part of the conversation. Stress. Like I said, it is a biological reaction to a challenge or demand. There's eustress, there's good stress, right? So our bodies become stressors. So for women, if we get children, having children is one of the most stressful times. It may be the most beautiful times, but it's also one of the stressful times that the body has to go through. And so therefore, getting aware of how your stress impacts you when it comes to making decisions about money. Then your performance and understanding under no uncertain terms, you have to perform when you're in this challenge. You have to perform if you are doing this thing called life. It is how you then optimize your human performance with regards to understanding your mental health and your mental well-being that makes a difference. And then frustrations. Because if you are getting ready to engage in this challenge, know that frustration is going to be part of it. And you may have to say to your business mentor, I'm frustrated, I've not moved as far as I need to go. Or you need to say to somebody that may be helping you, maybe do your social media, maybe doing your stills, I'm frustrated. No, I thought that this is what we were going to achieve and we didn't. This is part of the course. And when we learn to manage those emotions, when we learn to engage in those emotions a little different, we can then shift our narrative for our mental well-being. And the last part of mental health and how I break it down is your interactions. So the 2 points that I talk about a lot are intrapersonal, that is within, and interpersonal, between each other. So even though I'm here with Karen Sue, there's still a part of me that has to control who I am, what I do. And there's a part of me that I have to engage with her. And when you're in business and when you're making business decisions, ultimately you have to be able to control the way in which you think, the way in which you feel about situations, the way in which your mind sees those situations. And then you have to be able to communicate those same thoughts and those feelings externally between each other, right? So for me, I have to be able to give this presentation to you today, but I also have to be able to engage with Karen Sue and say, all right, we're talking about it. Is anybody asking any questions? And so that's a good component of your mental well-being, because ultimately you cannot do this on your own. Your mental health and your mental well-being starts to suffer when you hold on to that mantra, I can do bad by myself. And I always tell people that you're right. You can't do bad by yourself. But imagine how much more and how much further you could go if you have people who are on your team, whether it's a family member, whether it's a best friend, whether it's a parent, whether it's a colleague in the same area that you're involved in. So again, our interactional relationships, we have to look at personal thoughts within, emotional, felt, and the actions that you take within you, who you choose to connect to, because that becomes really, really important. And then the types of relationships that you're involved in, your family, your work, your social network, and the media that you use. So I'm going to take this opportunity to pause, and if you have any questions,
I have a question for you, Dr. J. So I'm operating my business, and in a particular month, everything goes haywire. I don't have enough money to buy stock. My daughter took ill. The electricity is about to get disconnected.
Ooh.
How do I manage my stress levels and my mental health when all of that chaos is going on around me?
That's a good question. First, I would say we often have to pause when we see that all of these things are happening, and then we have to stop and actually create priorities for what it is. Something is always going to have to give. So when you think in a situation where bills are due, other people need other things, sometimes the only situation or the only thing that you can control in that moment is you. You know, and what is it that I need at this point? Do I need support from somebody else?
Yes.
Do I need emotional support from somebody else? Do I need somebody to help me make a better decision about this not having money? Do I need to contact somebody that I could borrow money from?
Yes.
Also, I would say it's interesting in business. I think there has never been a business person that has not happened to. So is this part of the business? Is this part, do I need to go and speak to a mentor that can share about, okay, this is what I did in a situation like that.
Wonderful.
Now, I don't think all of us want that story of, you know, my leg got cut off, but I have not met a business person that has not had that story, where they had to choose between food or bill.
Yes.
Family decisions, school. So I think, I don't want to say that's part of it. You know, you would hope that you have business mentorship, that it does not happen. But if we have to be real, I've never experienced somebody who's not experienced something like that. So I think, you know, operating from a space of wisdom and asking somebody else for guidance and stepping outside of that intrapersonal relationship and really asking for help, because that's a big component of your mental well-being as an entrepreneur. Asking for help is your superpower. And when people come here for a small business loan, that is asking for help. When people ask somebody to help them with their social media because they're not tech savvy, that is asking for help, and understanding that other people are operating in their zones of genius. When you think you're in crisis, for that person, that's their zone of genius. So that would be my, you know, suggestion to anybody who's on that fence of, well, something is going to go wrong.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. Thank you. I have a question here from Naisha Worrell. Miss Worrell, I do hope that I am pronouncing your name correctly. And your question is, what is the first step of beginning, or I would say becoming an entrepreneur? My response to that, Naisha, would be for you to have a passion. I think you have to begin with what your passion is, whether your passion is baking bread or offering some form of advice, whether it's financial advice, whether it is advice on mental health, as Dr. J is doing today, but make sure that you're certainly qualified to do that. So my first step would be for you to understand your passion and then to figure out how to monetize it. So I'll let Dr. J now explain to you her thoughts on that question.
Yeah, so I love that answer, Karen Sue. I think, yes, it's definitely your why and your passion, but it's also to research people who are entrepreneurs. Because there's some people who are entrepreneurs who need to be working for people. You know, the stress level that's associated with making all the decisions on your own or paying people to be in their zone of genius can be daunting for a lot of people. So I think for me, it's to do research. I use this term a lot, go down the rabbit hole. Google 4 or 5 people that are entrepreneurs in the business that you want to be in, right? And once you start to see what are some of the things that they have to do, what are some of their responsibilities, you do your that's also your market research in terms of do I have what it takes to be an entrepreneur? Do I have what it takes to stand on my own 2 feet? And if something goes wrong, the buck stops at me. Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs forget that part. Like everybody's not going to come and bail you out. You're going to have to rise out of whatever's happening. You know, but I think everybody has the capacity to be an entrepreneur. Like if you look culturally in Barbados, sometimes I get disturbed by it, but I'm like, I wish we would carry it further. Like akis, how much akis we can sell in the summer? But that's an entrepreneurial spirit, you know.
Yes.
It is. And I joked with somebody this morning. I said, you know, I got to shout out to the men on the side of the road because they're keeping our cultural fruits alive. If you want sea grapes, their passion.
Coconuts, if you want coconuts.
Sea grapes, coconuts, cashews, mangoes.
Yes.
They keep our cultural, our seasonal fruits in the public's eye.
Right.
That's a passion, but I would like them to do a little bit more than just sell akis. Now going into the entrepreneurial spirit, and I'll probably go into aki wine, or go into aki dessert. Like there's so many other things that they could do with
besides just selling the akis. Definitely.
So I think entrepreneurs are also visionaries. So if you're a visionary and you know there's something that you think the world needs with your particular solution, I think that's how you get into it. There's a problem that needs to be solved. Okay. And you have the ability to stand on your own 2 feet and be supported by other people in their zones of genius, then entrepreneurship can definitely be for that person.
Wonderful. Another question for you. This is coming from me because our, what do you call them? The keyboard warriors?
Our keyboard warriors.
Our keyboard warriors seem to be a bit shy today. So my question to you is, in order to maintain my physical health, I go to the gym as often as I can and I eat healthy as often as I can. So what do I do to maintain my mental health now?
All right. So this is a good time to segue into the toolkit. So there's a mental health toolkit that I suggest to people. And one of the first things I talk about in terms of mental well-being and mental health toolkit is ultimately your nutrition. Entrepreneurs have the poorest nutrition and the poorest sleep pattern and the poorest physical health I've ever seen, because they burn the candle at both ends. They're the chief cook and bottle watcher, and they don't actually feed their brains, right? And so you have to feed your brain to have a good decision making. There's also something called cognitive fitness. And so we can train our brain in different areas, right? I can train your brain in memory. I could train your brain in focus and concentration. You know, when our seniors get older, what do we tell them to do? Do Sudoku and crossword puzzles and all of that stuff. Those things become very, very important in our toolkit as entrepreneurs and for our mental well-being. Another thing is definitely movement and operating in a safe space. When you are an entrepreneur, you have to know that there's a vision past where you're starting. So my hope is that for the individuals who's jumping on this challenge, just don't see it as a challenge. See it as this is a stepping stone to something larger. When we lose hope, we really lose our capacity to have good mental health. And a lot of people don't understand how important hope is. If you think about how the pandemic has been, a lot of people lost hope and their businesses declined, not because there was a lack of business, but there was a lack of vision and clarity for them to execute their business. So we have to exercise hope. We also have to know in terms of your cognitive fitness, like I said, your family, your support. because it's hard to be operating a business and struggling, and everybody, every day saying, we don't done with our foolishness. We don't gonna get a job. Because that's what we do, you know? And there's you still got bills in here to pay.
Yeah.
You're young, but yeah, you want to start, you want to think, but I ain't start like this. And it gets really hard, especially for younger individuals, to really find that right position when they don't have an ultimate level of support. So that support is actually, you know, you want to find those engagements with individuals, right? And then last one I have is focus on your breath. And a lot of people don't get this. And I want to say this very, very clear.
This has to do with breathing?
Yes,
Okay.
breathe in. When you don't get good oxygen flow to your brain, you will make poor decisions. And a lot of us in the last 2 years, because we haven't been exercising, because we haven't been eating right, we literally have physical shells that are literally stuck and clogged, and the oxygen can't get to our brain. So if you think about running a marathon or running a sprint or running a 400, the difference between all three of them is their capacity, their oxygen level capacity. I want people to think about that in terms of their mental well-being and being an entrepreneur. If you are not well physically and you can't breathe well, you can't sit up well, you know, you ain't getting a rest, your performance is going to dwindle and your productivity is going to dwindle. And so we do have to focus on your breath, take moments. We live in the islands, go and literally sit down next to the ocean, just because you can hear the way in which the ocean, the waves move back and forth. But for me, you know, and pause when things get hard, because things will get hard. That's just, I wish it was the easier way. And if you talk to any entrepreneur who says it was easy, well, I'm not sure if they were actually an entrepreneur. But, you know, pause, because pausing sometimes create a measure of clarity.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Dr. J, for today. Thank you, participants, for being here. Dr. J shared, a whole wealth of information with us this afternoon that I am sure you will use moving forward in your businesses and even in your everyday life. You will use. I want to thank you all for joining today's third webinar. I want to thank the Barbados Entrepreneurship Foundation. I want to thank our sponsor, Trident 10. And at this moment, I want to thank our other partners, the Barbados Workers Union Credit Union, the City of Bridgetown Credit Union, Barbados Trust Loan Limited, and Scotiabank. I want to thank everyone for joining us. And I ask you to tune in next Thursday, or rather this Thursday, August 25th, for our next webinar. And this is where we will be looking at insurance for MSMEs. And that's another interesting topic. So once again, I thank you all. I thank you, Dr. J, for coming today. Do have a wonderful afternoon and enjoy the rest of your week. Goodbye.
It is often said that the longest journey begins with the first step. And here at Fund Access, we give you the courage to start your journey, to grow, to live your dream. For more than 20 years, Fund Access has been empowering entrepreneurs through access to finance, business training, and technical assistance. So whatever stage you're at, we can help. Call us at 228-1366 or visit us online at www.fundaccess.org. Fund Access, empowering entrepreneurs. It is often said that the longest journey begins with the first step. And here at Fund Access, we give you the courage to start your journey, to grow, to live your dream. For more than 20 years, Fund Access has been empowering entrepreneurs through access to finance, business training, and technical assistance. So whatever stage you're at, we can help. Call us at 228-1366 or visit us online at www.fundaccess.org. Fund Access, empowering entrepreneurs. It is often said that the longest journey begins with the first step. And here at Fund Access, we give you the courage to start your journey, to grow, to live your dream. For more than 20 years, Fund Access has been empowering entrepreneurs through access to finance, business training, and technical assistance. So whatever stage you're at, we can help. Call us at 228-1366 or visit us online at www.fundaccess.org. Fund Access, empowering entrepreneurs. It is often said that the longest journey begins with the first step. And here at Fund Access, we give you the courage to start your journey, to grow, to live your dream. For more than 20 years, Fund Access has been empowering entrepreneurs through access to finance, business training, and technical assistance. So whatever stage you're at, we can help. Call us at 228-1366 or visit us online at www.fundaccess.org. Fund Access, empowering entrepreneurs. It is often said that the longest journey begins with the first step. And here at Fund Access, we give you the courage to start your journey, to grow, to live your dream. For more than 20 years, Fund Access has been empowering
But I know when's a cue or when's a